Here's the snap to Jordan Love. Good protection initially. Lofts it deep over the left side. Got a man out there. Leaping grab. Touchdown Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed, the rookie. My goodness.
Wayne's World, party time, excellent.
Great call right there from Wayne Larrivee, and I am loving this kid more and more all the time. Our conversation with Wayne Larrivee brought to you by Coal Investment Group, the retirement specialist in my Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Wayne, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing good, picking through the wreckage of the loss, finding the positive, and gnashing our teeth over the negative. You know, normal Monday after a loss.
Yeah.
Where was this game lost, in your opinion? Was it lost in the first half when they could not contain Harris and Warren on the ground? Or if not, where was it lost?
I go back to that, and I was thinking the same thing. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. You give up 209 yards rushing, or thereabouts 205, to a team that came in averaging 90 yards rushing per game. That's kind of where the reason it's not a big play. I understand they're kind of chunking you away with these yards on the ground, but it allows them to control the game for long periods of time. And I still think it gets down to stopping the run. That's the first thing you have to do in an NFL game, and then you go from there. But, third time this year that an offense has put 200-plus yards on the board, on the ground against the Packers defense. That's just that's tough. It's hard to win when that opponent is doing that.
It really is. On the positive side, the whole game I'm watching, and I'm watching Love, like we all are closely. And I just had this feeling of the guy really knows how to play the position. And, man, the arm talent is absolutely there. And so I had a kind of a feel-good feeling about him, even though the box score was not kind at the end. And when I looked at their guy, their second-year player in Kenny Pickett, who they spent a late first, early second on themselves, I forget where that fell.
I think it was second,
all I could think about, Wayne, was I wouldn't trade our guy for your guy with a big bag of gold coins included in the deal. I just wouldn't. So that made me feel good looking at Love yesterday, even though the box score was not kind.
You know what you're seeing in this? I think we're all seeing this. We're seeing progress. You know what I mean? Progress. I understand the two interceptions at the end. Aaron Rodgers did that in 2008 as well. In fourth quarter, had struggled in come from behind situations. Those are the most difficult situations, in my opinion, for a young quarterback because everything happens so fast down the stretch. But that last drive, getting them in position to maybe get it across to punch in a winning score, I mean, that was great. They had no timeouts left when they got the ball. They drove it to the 16 of the Steelers. So I do think there is growth. We're seeing growth in this young quarterback.
Yeah, the one thing that you would maybe nitpick is second down and the first interception, which was a great play by Peterson, by the way. Just a pro play and a bit lucky to have the tip drill work like that. Do you want to force it in there on second down, Wayne? Ideally, not so much. LaFleur said afterwards that was not the design of the play to go to Watson heavily covered in the corner.
Yeah, and that's I heard Matt talk about that. That's I think the quarterback is reading. He thought he had a shot, took it, even though it's second down.
Wayne, when you look at that, we've talked about kind of that throw to Christian Watson, but the connection between Love and Watson just hasn't been there this year for whatever reason. I believe almost half of Jordan Love's interceptions have been trying to throw to Christian Watson. Talk about that a little bit, because that does just seem like that's one of those things that needs to develop, and it just isn't developing.
Most of the time when he goes to Christian Watson, it seems to be in one of those shot plays. You talk about deep passes. I'd love to know what the yards per attempt on targets to Watson is, because I think that will tell you how deep they're going to him. And that's what he is. He's a big play receiver, but I'd like to see them get a little bit more in the shorter game, to Watson and let him make a play with his legs after the catch. And I felt like they were doing more of that last year with the kid and get him on track that way. But Butch, you're right. I think Love has thrown 10 interceptions now in the season. 5 of them have been on passes targeted to Christian Watson.
kind of my last thing here is they were chasing the block extra point all game long. They were doing it down the stretch again. Just again, another error in another area of this football team. Just talk about that a little bit, because it was when you knew it happened, or when we saw it happen, you knew it was going to be one of those things all game long where the Packers were going to be chasing it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they could have pushed that game into overtime easily. Had it not been for that, they were down 4 going into those final 2 drives. But you can't miss a block like that. And Peterson came across wide open on that block. If I'm not mistaken, it was Peterson, right, who blocked the extra point. And he was virtually untouched. Josiah DeGuara took blame for it in the locker room after the game. That's all well and good, but that type of stuff happens, and it can get you beat when it does happen, even though that happened away in with the first half, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But, it's like Lombardi always said, you don't know what play is going to determine a football game, and it could happen in the first half as easily as it can happen in the fourth quarter.
Right. Meanwhile, the O-line, I thought, did great overall. They opened up holes for running lanes. There was some so frustrating things. There was a huge backside gainer available for Dillon, and he slipped. He slipped on the cut, which would have been a massive play. They opened holes, and they kept Highsmith and Watt from completely wrecking the game. And this was with Nyman being a late scratch at left tackle. Can you talk about how well the O-line played yesterday?
I thought they really played well. I thought the passing game was a little quicker, as it had to be, to nullify some of that pass rush ability. But I thought the Packers' offensive line was outstanding in that game. And you're right, they opened some holes in the running game. They averaged almost 5 yards per rushing attempt, only 24 attempts, because in the second half you're playing catch up. But nonetheless, 116 yards rushing on 24 rushing attempts. Dillon had the big 40-yard run. When it gets down to it, though, the thing I keep going back to, and it was that play that went to replay and what appeared to be a backward pass that was muffed, and the Packers picked up. Rashawn Gary reached over and put it in the end zone. If they called that play correctly and it went to replay, and did they give you much of an indication? We didn't get much of an indication as to why they stood with the call on the field, because it just looked obvious to us in the booth as we watched replays that was a backward pass, should have been a fumble. And if the official blows the whistle, fine. The Packers get it at about the 5-yard line of Pittsburgh in that case. Could have changed the game.
End of the first half. Any complaints with the sort of packing it in by LaFleur? They did run a play on 1st and 10 at their own 15, went for -5. So they're facing 2nd and long. They still have over a minute to go. They got timeouts in their pocket, and they just said, you know what? Let's go to the locker room. You okay with that?
I'm okay with it, because, I think what they're looking for in that first down play, you're looking for something to ignite the drive. And if you don't get it, then okay. Cut your losses. You're going to get the ball to start the second half.
Okay. Identity-wise, do you feel like this team has one yet?
I think it's starting to get there, and I think the quarterback is starting to become part of that identity, and I think that's a positive right there. I think he's played well the last couple of weeks. I really do. The numbers, as you point out in the box score, notwithstanding, but I've always said this about football. You can't read a box score in football if you didn't see the game and know what really happened. So,
right.
But yeah, I think they've offensively, they're starting to get an identity. They're 2 players they've got to get on track. Aaron Jones, 17 touches, 54 yards. 17 touches, he's got to be at 100-plus yards. And I think Christian Watson, the big plays have to be there. Maybe the pass is a little shorter. Let's get him with something in the flat. Let's let him make something happen, make somebody miss, and go from there. But let's get him some catches and get into a rhythm. But Jaden Reed, wow, is he emerging as a rookie? I think he's just been terrific.
Yeah. Okay, Wayne, as always, a pleasure. We got a tough stretch coming up. 11 days and 2 tough teams coming. One at Lambeau, one on the road on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, and they played yesterday in Los Angeles. It was a heck of a ball game, and the Lions got that last field goal to beat the Chargers. But the Chargers coming to Green Bay.
Yeah, 41-38 your final there. There were 5 walk-offs yesterday in the league. It's the most they've had, I think, ever. 5 walk-offs.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Walk off for Wayne, because he's got other hits on a Monday morning. Thank you for your time as always, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you later in the week.
There you go. Wayne Larrivee, brought to you by Kowal Investment Group.